Namo Guru Be Namo Buddhaya Namo Dharamaya Namo Sanghaya Namo Guru Be Namo Buddhaya Namo Dharamaya Namo Sanghaya Namo Guru Be Namo Buddhaya Namo Dharamaya Namo Sanghaya Kande Lanje Gwenje Ndogane Raga Shosa Wonde Chonzen Chöye Jabo Gwenje Lo Sancha Seda Chema Ne De She Zo Zo De Je Nanga Se Je Be De Che Ze La Ma Ye Be Zo Ga Je Ta Lo De Be Se Na Je Jo Do De Ba Je Je Ke Ja Jo Son Xie Je Je Ge Ja Ve Lo Je Ke Za Na Ve Je Ju Le Xie Cha Be Be Je La Me Ze Be Wo De De Be De De La Cha Ye Wo Che Ye Na Zo Me Do Che Jin Do Be Na Se Che Jan Wo Sha Ye Zhe Che Jin Ja Zo De Se Na Xie Zhuo Che La Xie Ba Be Ka Xie Do Me De Ne Sa Ba Le Nga Ye Je Me Ga Je Je Ba Ke Ba Ran Dong Ba So Ye Me De Cho Nye Ne Je Ba Cha Be Zo Nye Me De De Ma De Jo La Se Che Ye Ba Be Ta Jo De Ye Je Go Bo Ye Ye La Ta Ja Soje Jonan La Janju Bandon Dane Gyaltsen Dagi Chuju Yebe Sonam Je Andola Sanjen Roba Jo Chenan Soje Jonan La Janju Bandon Dane Gyaltsen Dagi Chuju Yebe Sonam Je Andola Sanjen Roba Jo
Simje tabje to tojalana ma yada wo zo sa yi ho mo re je ne to ba ti to wa she she de tabi she se ne be ulu shangju su mo de ji ma tun ji he da ni sem ba.
Let's take a moment and cultivate the highest form of motivation. We call it bodhicitta motivation, or the altruistic motivation, seeking complete enlightenment for the benefit of all other sentient beings. And with that kind of motivation, we should all participate in this Lamrim discourse for the teaching on the stages of the path leading to enlightenment by Manjushri Lama Tsongkhapa. I'm going to read about a couple of pages from this Lamrim Chemo, the Great Lamrim, volume number 2 in English translation of Lamrim Chemo, page 159, to give you the blessing of oral transmission followed by explanation.
Suvera yela sune jela chimene ba de dandala ba da chela ngade so tamun ne jela chimene me so jawal ne ji ne ba che ba le me so ba ga da ne jela jarwa la me ka che ko ba la ga bo tawanye ge de ge che ba da du ngo che ba la me so ba ga da ko so je ge che ba da ye ba so sum che ba la me so ba Tambolani Tower Chawa Mere Bata Bata, Zavara Chawa Bata, Tambola Som Yeta, Yijita, Telabate, Nemere Tambola, Ran Yemita, Nemere, Nijila Toa, Nijila Toa, Gyeltsen Kang Yam do Tabara Chawa, Teta. Tira la na ba she de ji sam ba gong de da ne ji ra ge de ka ba mu lu dan sem la yi de mo ye du nge je be so nya na ke de ti ra la de ba shi ba rang ye she de na ba ya je na ba je be cho yin na de rang de la rang de ne me de xin je o me de ku ne na ba shi ba yin be cho ba Imbi Troy, Tambo, Tarano, Troy, Meridi, Nabashivatella, Rang de maybe said the Taramo Combe, New Savoya, Bata, Yawasi, Yinota, Sijava, Yila, Chibi, Gedo, Geno, Soba, no, Never, Never said the Gedo, some Joe. Yuda Yuda Jeno, Soba, no, Nivu Senti, Jeto, Yondu, Masamaja, Masaja, Juje, the Dake, Varajivation, Doji, the Sana. Jet Yondu Masam Masam, the J. Mijivish, Rod, the Jit, the Neba, Chin, the Jelo, Tijan, never she will join them, Jiju. Teja de Jebe Cheredo, Casate, Jose, Jamedo, Quaji Jan, Yumbi, Shinji, on the GVT, Tender Sueshero. Ramate, Meva Shinja, only the good, never shiva in any shit and troll, Merite, Benoni, Donye, Lamniti, on the Swangashi. Rang Daily Tawachi, Pendon, Gelo, never seen to Digbo, so she. Then don't you remember she be with the Tarashe, the John, with the Junsi John, Metro, Don Chitila, Bebashin, the Shansi John, never was one of the Don't you remember she. 대다시 와이를 냠지 싸네 가사대로 주제 저와 뉴워데를 당 TV 시르드 다기 쇼심지 제발 몇년 냠지 센제 그래서 대다 영시 시작발에 초연 중부 조조부 쇼라 멤버 저바메 대들 TV 니무 자스게 니무 동지 거스미 시도도 저비 나 장데 데르심진 좀메제 데니 니문남지 조시 넘버제네 케부 좀 데니무 남종시 넘버제네 케부 넘심제 달로 초메제 제소도 주주디 리바 몬드 송야원 데니 에바르 켈라싱 트이 님부르 주접 체위 小那了想啥样？去自己旅行的工那把什么送别，这都同学问的了，你把你这个把小我给的时间太大，给的时间太大，让人那你该样都爱我了，没觉得这边都爱这边的，写着都得了，让人有些人我心上但是。 你们差不多把那切线的都是旁边让人搞不到，养的什么的，菜嘛的，从老手边那把些，开始就把手些那些了，那把他就养的上面让我炒个把手，就是来的他们这现在问题问给他们在这些呢，对的不？ 我跟老赵明就是写到的张咋样容没这些吧，通就是那点这进来，那就是多。他他送的的我说那我给的让给出就是那个样东西没得别留下他呢，但是讲说上的东西。 就没写到样去用控制去你控制你莫这边到多年就是些，这到现实心里了，你们是不是现在这个些说老不老等让心看人大呢？没人把你写了早这玩意被讲的心情也让心里面都会让心呢，你错没得的。 没啥心思把了，这边这个些弄呢。我的老肉啊，那这边的拖拉沙把那个了，那地中间个那个老车把没这个些弄样。上了车个的就来给这些老这些把希望那些人心弄的老车没的随便让些没工着。 我的讲的老不啦，心结上心也他心结上心也把那我那说话没啥的，看了头公把些说，我那就被看个那把老大的没人把。 那我是那把姐呗，女些老车那有个老少不了，好少以前都超过了1年，对不对？这边女些老车呢，有把说基本别把现在基本上呢，把些把现当别现当超过的，有把老少把贵的开的偏把老车那这样现当个别，你那现当了车就是先说。 他的群众是随便要的来的话了，他随便要的是女性的前门人吧，实际上大概是那么就随便我那场上给好多弄下去，是随便随便写，东西他都来把写的了，他全部写的个，你不给东西随便写的写，他全部也是就随便写，就是把他变成全部东西公家说的，你别说老呀这。 我就是被咖喱看到的了呀，咖喱没就写呢，你被汤的人写的，就要什么样的？
So Geshe read from page 159 to page 163, volume number 2 in the English translation of Lamrim Chemo, the great treatise on the stage of the path, enlightenment. That was the blessing of lineage oral transmission of the Lamrim. now I started to give the teaching or the explanation. Those of you who have got this translation text, we are on page 159. Last time we stopped at the different types of perfection of patience or the divisions of patience. Broadly stated, there are three kinds of patience, if you will. Number one is developing the patience of disregarding harm done to you. Or usually I translate it as the patience of not retaliating against those who harm us. Yes, that's number one. Number two, here it is translated as developing the patience of accepting suffering. And usually I translate it as the patience of willingly accepting suffering or challenges. Number three, it is translated here as developing the patience of certitude about the teachings. And usually I translate it as patience of definitely contemplating Dharma. And so the patience of not retaliating against those who harm us, or the patience of disregarding harm done to us, this is the usual kind of, patience we generally talk about. Should anyone hurt our feeling or harm us, we try to tolerate it so that we don't return harm to them or retaliate against them. And the second one is, and as we face challenges and difficulties and pain and suffering following spiritual practice of the journey, we should tolerate those suffering that we encounter in our spiritual development or Dharma journey. The third kind of patience is as we engage in the study, contemplation, meditation of Dharma, we may face challenges or difficulties. So we should put up with any difficulties we find in the study, contemplation, and meditation of Dharma. So we're on page 159 towards the bottom. The first kind of patience, maybe I should stick to the translation here so that you don't get confused with my translation and that translation, so it's called developing the patience of disregarding harm done to you. We just explained, which has two subpoints. The first one is stopping impatience with those who harm you. And the second one is stopping both dislike for harm doers' attainment and delight in the troubles. As Geshe explained, The first has to do with, we have to take into account different reasons why we should not be impatient with those who harm us. The second one is usually, those who harm us, when they have success story, everything, right, that makes us even dislike them more, right? Or when the things go bad with them, then we're like, great, maybe they should, get worse now, right? So that's the kind of problem we have. So we have to think about those things and try to cultivate or stop impatience. Now, the first one, stopping impatience with those who harm us, has two subpoints. The first one is stopping impatience with those who prevent your happiness and with those who cause you to suffer. And the second one is stopping impatience with those who prevent your praise, fame, honor, and with those who have contempt for you or say offensive, unpleasant things to you. So basically, as more explanation will be given on this, at this point we are just simply stating the points and the subpoints. Some of the reasons we use why we get impatient with somebody is because he or she is on my way to be happy, and I need to be happy, and I have every right to be happy, whatever, and this person is on my way, right? That's how we get impatient, so we have to deal with. The other things we say is, here are a lot of people who want to honor me, who want to sing praises for me. Then there's this person, again, who is destroying all that, Now again we have to deal with that issue,
어제 당분이 초와샤 미르버 때부터 저와샤르버 때부터 다 코초야 이제 가르세나 소소르 비게 대화지 도야다 등에서야 돈다 초바이나 얘네 뒤에 비게 뉴질 초이나 되게 다 비게 소소 대화줘야다 등에서야 짠 팽거요 말아 시다 디페기면서 얘네 초리고 말이지 그 저와샤르버 때부터 들 콜바 닝제시데 엔 고베 뉴모방그 디저 초와시 사드피게 콜 징제로 고바이나 엔텔레 페도 여러 와세데도 시바니가 페도 여자 디레고니 사모니 동고레라 와서
Now we're on top of page 160. The first point, stopping impatience with those who prevent your happiness and with those who cause you to suffer. This is explained under two subpoints. The first one is showing that anger is unjustified. And the second was showing that compassion is suitable or appropriate. As Geshe explained, that if our wish is to find happiness and to reduce or get rid of suffering, getting angry is really not going to find us happiness and reduce our suffering. As a matter of fact, getting mad or anger, it really exacerbates the situation. So therefore, anger is unjustified. It's not really helpful. The second one is, if we really care about finding happiness and finding and ending our suffering, we should cultivate compassion for those, especially those who bring us harm, because compassion is a solution to the issue, to the situation, and because compassion, as we know, brings us a lot of benefits in this life as well as benefits in our future lives.
어디 다现在的偏多看没的，在当时这现在了，当不什么娱乐当出没了，以前的出没了吧？那现在当没了吧？我现在出没了吧？当所以当时现在，因为出没了吧，有点通过了，现在的话，现在当没了吧？在以前那出于抗啥的话了？在以前是那的看着的这些。电当是的，这个电在不是的，但并那抗杀这就那抗杀的电些，你们是搞大电的个就是吧？那个的在这个什么有事，我这边说
的。So we're on page 160, volume number 2 in the English translation, Labrim Chemo. Now the first subpoint that is showing that anger is unjustified. This is tackled with three more subpoints of the reasons, as a matter of fact. The first one is called, on analysis of the object, anger is unjustified. The second one is, on analysis of the subject, anger is unjustified. Then the third one is, on analysis of the basis, anger is unjustified. So as Geshe explained, that for us to be able to prevent anger from arising with regard to those who bring us trouble or harm, we really have to use our critical thinking, analytical mind to be able to analyze the different situations so that we will be able to prevent anger from arising. So as a part of that critical analysis and reasoning, we have these three things to talk about. And number one, we have to take into account the object here means in regards to whom we are becoming angry, right? Anger arises in relation to X, Y, Z, the objects, right? So we have to take the objects into account, right? That's one way to deal with anger. The second reason is the subjective experience itself. What is anger? Anger is a subjective experience, right? We have to look at the anger face to face, so to speak. Let me look at you. That. And then the third one is we have to look at the interdependent relationship between the anger and the afflictive emotions and we, the people or the person, right? Because we as the people are the basis, sort of like almost like container, and the afflictions, including anger, are the content or the substance, right? So what is in us are the afflictive emotions. So there is interdependent relationship between us as individuals or people and afflictive emotions, including anger, as dependent upon us, right? So we have to explore that interdependent relationship between the two.
Nuji cho mirik be Gyeltsen kanyi nyam di tabar shawo. Tetar taban da kare de khura nguni sada khura be kar deva na yishi ni khondro shiyo sa deva shiyo de da khondro shiyo deva shiyo di shenda ji kuku de tawa ina. Tetar taban na di rang la deva shinde ki saba ngu de tan jowe rang de kaba rang de kaba liu da semla yidi mwi dungi jewa Jebe so nyamna, yo desi wata, tada takba shawas. Tada takba na tila eni buka nuba shiba di ko samuru ngu dan joya rangi dik, ne kasa dewa kakba liu na kasa yidi mungo dunga di, eni jebe so nyam dati si wamja. Ko chogo Gyeltsen kari suna, ko nuba shiba eni soso kubi Dewa do shiva da dungi che shakdu slavi na sigwar sawa tikta lavi na kete ti rang la nebe neba me shiba rang la yu shin du neba shiwe chowa yin tada rang tene me ti shenji angji di ku ne neba shiba yin bi chowa yin na chowa yin tangbo ta na chowa me ri te ti neba shiba la tada rang me bi shete Dada ngu kumbi nyumu samu yewa yu nyawa tang tsuishe mayo yila shiwe yu nam soba na nebe semdi kedo nyamdu samjang yu jen ma samjang yu jen tada kewa juye shi seda ko ta kola rawa yume ta ko kono tamo tsum shahi do tezi kola neba shiya kichi gugu doksan kono shahi do tengni yungo marisi kono kadu ngume bhaja ange ene de yunga yinza Kodi yung kobada ini kare yu kansa choyu yu nyawa she ini ko tsuishe mayi be komde she o tende ji ini tene ini ko neva shiyo ko masumna angme shin ko neva shiyo ngo res no ro kyo je she da jude da masana 다디 취미 시당 디데 그 방사 수 레가부터 마사나 코 려고 산는 군데 자세 시상나 네바시 로지가 말이시거다.
So we're on page 160. Those of you who have had this text, you can see how detailed everything is presented here. And so we just talked about need to engage in critical analysis and investigation of things, dealing with our experience of impatience or anger. And so again, analyzing the object, is done under four sub points, if you will. And the first one is on analysis of whether the object has self-control, anger is unjustified. And so Geshe started to explain this. So let me translate the explanation Geshe has given. As someone, how should I say, makes us angry, right? So we think that person, whoever he or she is, right, is our object of anger, right? We're directing our anger at him or her. But what we really have to take into account is he or she, making us angry, as if he or she has full control, right, over what he or she is doing, or is he or she under the influence of something else, that even though he or she may not necessarily wants to harm us or make us angry, but he or she is instigated by or influenced by some other factors, X, Y, Z, right? We have to really take that into account. Is somebody completely in charge, right? Full control over himself or herself, and then driving us nuts? Or is this person is in many ways helpless? It's a situational reason why this person is doing whatever he or she is doing. So that's important to take into account. And because here we are thinking, I want to be happy, and this person is preventing me from being happy, right? That's why we're getting mad with this person. Or that we think that, I don't want any pain and suffering, but this person is a troublemaker, bringing me pain, so I'm getting mad, right? These are the reasons why we are impatient with someone. Now we really have to analyze this situation from the objective perspective, right? Conditioning factor. This person is my object of anger. Is he or she in full control, or is he or she is kind of helpless in some sense, right? And so what is explained here is that, as a matter of fact, the person is really not in a full self-control, right, a situation. There are many reasons why the person could be acting under other factors, the X factors, if you will. And so the factors include that it could be a very situational thing, right? It's not necessary that somebody will make every plan, the whole blueprint, and design it and then get mad with you, Just by situation, some go to, right? It just happened. So this person has no blueprint to harm you. It just happened, berserk thing happened. It's a situational factors, right? So that means person has not full control, is affected by situational factors. So we should understand that, This another thing is that the person, the imprints in the mind, become, making angry somebody else for for a long time, right? That imprint is carried in the mind. It's called activated, okay? And because of that habituation with driving somebody nuts and crazy, that's the habit. The habit is kicking in, and the person's kind of helpless. When the habit kicks you, right, kicks your hindsight, then you act. So that's what's happening here. And another thing is this person's also very much habituated and has developed so much familiarity with what we call, for lack of a better word in English, 출민 유제. We translate as inappropriate mental applications. It's a wrong kind of mental orientations, So it's a wrong mental orientation this person has. Because of that, person is behaving, not himself or herself, isn't it? So when we look at these situations, then we know, this person is not in charge of the self-control. Person is either influenced by situation factors or is really influenced by the bad habit, is really under the influence of the inappropriate mental orientations, and therefore is acting out and driving us nuts, no.
어디 제도 대다 유진 대다 너봐 시대자 대여 너봐 시비 좋아하는 제진 디 신의 동의 제비치 거기다 좀 대세월다 꼭 가려서는 코로나비 차기로 가게 누야 삼으면 말래 애니 그 소소 스미시다 애니 유거 녀와니 봐시 애니 디 니모 온게 애니 비게 콜 네바시 삼바 찍고 그랬어 코로나 찍고 차기로 뭐 찍고 그랬어 어디 제가 다디 삼바디 깨니 애니 네바시야 다 좋아하려는 비게 휴고요는 다 측정으로 있는 가래나 어디 니모 디게 때네 찍고 그랬어 제가 지지도 콜야 차기를 지야 매비시데 어디 내가 되게 그가 시 중거로부터 유무부터 섬미시 되게 되어레스 제가 콜 지야 아니 콜 비가 언제 지야 매바 시조자 아니 콜 쳐고야 면도 아시고 나가지 내가 근데 지금 포기 받은 감도 다 지단 디레르시나 몇째기 아니 몇 수메가 콜 지금 내가 지금 땅 베이나 그 내가 지금 땅에 잡을 때는 미세 초고 말고 동계들 초고 미기 무슨 게 코카미 좀 찍어 말아. 어디 나지 삼 거래요.
So the bottom line, the point we're trying to make here, or which is being made here, is this: that if we kind of take a moment to analyze the situation, our objective condition of anger, we know this person is not the master of his or her domain, right? This person is not in full charge, self-control. This person is influenced by his or her afflictive emotions, anger, right? And so because he or she has befriended afflictive emotions, anger, because you develop such an intimate connection with anger, and you develop such a wonderful habit with anger, I shouldn't say the word wonderful, sucks there. And because you have been often thinking in this like a wrong mental orientation game, because of all these factors, the person is acting as if he is in charge or she's in charge, but it's not, And if you really want to get mad with, right, something, then we should really get mad with, so to speak, with his or her anger, the delusion, not the person, because the person is, acting under the influence of his or her afflictive emotions, isn't it? Yeah, and so that will kind of distance our anger from the objective condition. And the example Geshe has given is, let's say, someone has got a problem with us, and he or she hires an agent, sends an agent to beat us up, right? But we figure out, well, this is just an agent. This person has nothing against us, but either he got paid or whatever Geshe said. I put it in the footnote, right? Need to be paid. Who wants to do a job, without payment? So now once we figure out, we're really not going to be mad with this person, are we, right? Because this person is, paid, it's his job. But we really should be getting mad with the one who has really sent him to us, right? So in the same way, this person is under the influence of master afflictions and anger. And why are we, mad with this person? Because he or she is not behaving himself, right? It's under the influence of anger. So that's how we should analyze it, try to distance ourselves from the objective condition of anger.
this is Tati Pedro because this is better don't you learn the on the song Gashi. Round till Tawachi, Pen of Genla, never she dating, they were so shaken. Then don't you run me by Shibi, Titashi, Nyane, tell a Junseja, Mejoa. Don't tang ji tete le beba shendi chansum ji jang o nu ji ji ne ba sheba na di nyu be dong ji rang me ba shebe teta sheba inu nyam de samne se kansa de le jung se ja chowa me chowa di nyu de de te che de da gi chansum ji ba le ane be do nyam de sem ji go so de se or da che da dong ji ba ga ji me nyu ba da dong ji ba yo le jong chong de nyu a yo ne de de nyu a ga ji me Rizzo Mazinza, in the Koya, the Tayata singing, rosing a gangala shooting, never come to Shiro. Ready, Sina Kozo, Telia, 이 컨트롤 지고 뭐 그다 녀도 샤 녀 당야 탑이시야 뭐도 그야 요거 중에들 내가 시게들 초야 sem산 지금 말와 제가 그야 들 초야 집 sem지 파샤네 그 녀야 유들이야 제야 탑이시는 비고요 맞 어디나 이 저주스바에는 또 컨트롤 신게들이야 애니 거 컨트롤 신게들 그런 말도시 그다 컨트롤시야 컨트롤 초야 유디 니무디 수미지 디게서 셰베 인자 다 거기에 니무디게야 제와시고도 선을 학원들이야
So we're in the middle of page 161, where it's stated, as Geshe explained, here's a wonderful example to illustrate or demonstrate the point we're trying to make here. When a crazy person, crazy for whatever his or her reasons, okay, maybe let me stick to one gender, okay, make him, okay, so let the females take a rest here. Him, the crazy man. Crazy for whatever his reasons, crazy because really it's psychosis and neurosis, everything went crazy, that. Or maybe crazy because of some health conditions, right? You're not, your health is not good, so you're going crazy because elements in your bodies are all whacked out, so you're going crazy. So whatever your reason for craziness, when a crazy person behaves crazy and harms us, right? We are not going to get mad with the person, are we, right? Because this person is abnormal and not, crazy. So instead of getting mad with this person, really we want to help this person, right? Can I find a wonderful medical treatment or whatever necessary so this person could become sane again, right? We can cure this insanity which is driving the person to say the craziest thing and do the weirdest thing, right? And we don't get mad with the crazy person, are we, right? Why is that? Because we know this person is under the influence of something beyond his or her control, isn't it? Yeah. So in the same way, when the bodhisattvas, they encounter a crazy person like, angry people, instead of getting mad with the people, they really try to understand. They say, you know what? They are behaving like a crazy man under the influence of anger, And bodhisattvas develop more determination, courage. You know what? I would like to do everything I can, to find a way to help this person deal with his anger or the afflictive emotions. May I be able to become Buddha as soon as possible so that I will be able to help this person, right? Deal with anger and get rid of the anger. So bodhisattvas don't get disheartened by encountering crazy people. Crazy means angry people in this case. And so instead of getting mad with the people, they really understand their situation and they want to find cure for their anger. Just like we would like to help a crazy person, right? Whether it's finding a medication or finding a social support system or whatever, right? That's how it is. Yes. Of course, the example given in the textbook is somebody who is not behaving properly under the influence of demons, right? Maras. Yeah. Somebody, because of some bizarre health conditions or we think under the influence of some invisible negative spirit, this person is gone totally crazy and behaving so bizarre and saying the weirdest thing, and we kind of understand the person. We don't get mad with the person. Try to help. Yeah. But, when we really think about afflictive emotions within ourselves and how they influence us and to do the weirdest things, at that moment, we are really like that crazy person, isn't it? Of course, we never use a label. If somebody is really angry, somebody is under influence of anger, we don't go, well, you are a mad person, right? We just think like, okay, that's the usual thing. But in reality, whether you misbehave under the influence of some negative spirit or under the influence of some demon or under the influence of anger, it's the same thing because you are not yourself, right? You are seeing the weirdest things and you are behaving the strangest and bizarrest way, and you are not yourself. It's the same thing, So that's why we have to look at that situation and prevent impatience.
다다 돈이나 저 중앙으로 녀아디 거기 실내도 지고 지금 사고라 다 같이 다 그것은 지금 타니 진짜 야 코드다 되자세는 녀스라 그 말도 지 거 때는 유도야 되다 근데 너무 쇼는 유도야지 지고 지금 사 또 사모도는 딱다 누구도 갈 어디 누구
So Geshe says, as Dharma practitioners, we really have to look at sort of this correlations between somebody in whose mind is disturbed by demons or some invisible negative spirit, whatever, and they're not behaving himself, or that somebody's mind is disturbed by anger, lust, and whatever these other delusions. It's really basically the same thing, right? When your mind is disturbed and you are acting under the influence of that disturbed mind, basically you are going crazy. You're just the same, But of course, in the world, conventionally, we don't call person who is behaving under anger, you are a crazy person, right? Maybe we do in English, I don't know. But if somebody has really lost the marbles, then we know that person is crazy. But really, we could lose the marbles with anger and attachment and lust and all that, crazy things.
대단 희잡을 초용 중부 송ala 멤버 주부 매들 특별 nhiệm 다세기 nhiệm 단지 강사매 시에당시 내들어야 특별 nhiệm 다섹스도에 다섹스도에
Jada can tell six though
라
tell six though
다스려와 어디는 다도 다스고 다 같이 상지 그게 이 뉴모디 비게 다 심지 비게 동에테 다스거 뭐 강사 되던 데베 강사 되는 얘네 비게 다시고 말이지 샤베 잠자 구냐더라 다 컨트롤도 비게 다그 건지파 매서야 그때 다스기스디 강사 내가 신게 임바 컨트롤도 되자셔다 돼서 인디 강사 되 내가 신비게 세리 독자시고 뭐 강사 코로나 비게 NP 인제 유시고 뭐 되게 내가 신경 쓰고 말했어라. 그래서 다 가지 디시드잖아. 다도 니모 그니 엔디 강사한테 엉미도 그래서디 잡된로 그거 말해.
So at the bottom of page 161, we have a stanza quoted from great Indian master Aryadeva's 400 stanzas of Chatukshedak, Shibhyapa in Tibetan. And the stanza reads, I quote, "Just as a doctor does not fight but helps patients who are possessed by spirits though they get angry, so the sage sees that afflictions are at fault, not the persons who have the afflictions," unquote. So as Geshe explained, that when you bring a mentally gone crazy person to a doctor, and this crazy person behaves crazy because he is crazy, the doctor is not going to get mad with the right patient, but will try to find a way to treat and that. And the sage, meaning Buddha, Buddhas never get mad or angry with sentient beings who have afflictive emotions or delusions. But Buddhas see the afflictive emotions and delusions that sentient beings have as the real enemies. That's what the Buddha said, right? The real enemy exists within us because we have afflictive emotions such as ignorance, anger, hatred, and you just name it. So these are the real enemies Buddha sees, but not the people with these afflictive emotions. As a matter of fact, Buddha has so much love and compassion for the people like us who have afflictive emotions.
남중시 남바제니 케바는 심제탈 초메시 제송바다로 세다 나와잡이다 거디는 들이야 애니 뇌자도 코라서 애니 비게 제발 고수 제발 말을 못하냐 그 강가 가르치는 이 강사 그런 좀 말했어. 그래봐. 그 가르쳐 니문 되자기다 때문에 뭐 저거 좀 그랬어. 뒤에 다 개발도 제대로 봐 다운되잖아. 애는 거기 강사들이 앞에 좀 마디비시네. 그 맛인 그 니문 뒤에야 애는 좀 되자고 그랬어. 그래서 총미시 제가 대선다 그 심지에 가면 니문 그 시시에 샤사네. 애니 수뇌바 가디시나 엔텔파 누인신의 추구말이시 거라. 어디 다 돈다 좀 하고나 싸와데 싸하면은 당가서 강사들로 직승행을 나는 그 그게 계속 말하다 그 라우스 파토그로.
네.
다 제대로 힘을 그 기록을 배워 잡아라.
So again, on the same page, at the bottom of page 161, we have a stanza quoted from the work of a great Indian master, Chandrakirti, and who has said, I quote, "This is not living beings' fault, rather it is the fault of the afflictions. So the learned analyze and do not fight with others," unquote. So here again, Chandrakirti also tells us that when sentient beings behave wrongly under the influence of the afflicted emotions, the learned ones, they know that the people are being helpless. They're acting under the influence of the afflicted emotions, such as ignorance, anger, attachment, lust, jealousy, pride, arrogance, you just name it, right? So they don't get mad with the people, right? And as a fact, they know what is making people behave so wrongly and say the wrong thing is because they are instigated by, they are motivated by anger, by attachment. And so they look like helpless at that very moment, And so they, and should people harm them under the influence of these afflicted emotions, they don't retaliate against them with the understanding that these people and their delusions are not one and the same thing, isn't it? Ordinarily, the way we see is if somebody is really angry and behaving under that, we usually identify that person and anger as the same, isn't it? Well, he said it, he did that, We just don't differentiate between his anger and his lust and all of that. It's just he, So that's why we get mad with a person. But the learned ones, they know, yeah, I know he's saying the weirdest thing, but that's not him who wants to say it probably, but something else is making him say it. It's his anger, it's his pride and jealousy. So therefore, he really needs our help, isn't it? He doesn't need our, psychosis back.
어디 주진의 리과 망도 성경데 예받게라 최년보 주접체요 나라 상사야 최전의 디시 고네 네버세버 송바 담데다 송바데다 동직외서 내가 예반이도 고버셔스 내가 다지다 조주가도 가지다 코르샤미로 기대 망보셔야 되다 단단히 딱 보셔야 돼. 그 영화 유명신 딱 보시기도 와. 어제 영화 유명 딱 보셔야 돼.现在다 상세가도 최전 디시고는 해야 돼. 강사비게 다 당면도 오신 나도 말도 오신 나 주어디 꾸는 유명한 것이 버렸어. 근데 섬주 뭐 강사고 비게다 최다 버서 요 말이 상대 강사를 마저 보시네. 이제 유명을 쳐야 소리 네 지금 말해 샤시. 그래서 디고는 삼원도 담이나 근데 됐어 거다. 근데 공주님은 유잡식도 없어. 로다 즉 노르르 저러와. 저 노도 쓰거라.
So at the bottom of page 161 and over page top of 162, what's stated there is this, that in Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Shantideva's engaging in the Bodhisattva deeds or the actions, Bodhisattva Char Avatar or Chinjuk in Tibetan, provides many wonderful reasons that we should consider why we must not get mad with the people, right, who are behaving under the influence of afflicted emotions. We must not retaliate against them. Many wonderful reasons are given. And the one reason that we have just looked at is that the person is not in full charge or the control, isn't it? The person is not a master of his domain. And he got screwed up by afflicted emotions. Well, they don't use the word screw up, but let's throw that one in. So when you get screwed up by delusions, then you're screwed up, right? That we know. So we must not be impatient with the person, but rather try to understand that his or her situations. And then in the Bodhisattva Bhumi, the Bodhisattva levels, other reasons are given where by contemplating or meditating on the phenomena or reality that we should not retaliate against others. So in many ways coming to the same thing. I think in the Bodhisattva levels, Bodhisattva Bhumi, I think there's some mention of how we can contemplate on the selflessness, right, reality, and then we understand that everything is merely imputed by terms and concepts. Nothing exists in and of itself. Nothing is acting, independent of, X, Y, Z. So we are conditionally existent, and we are under the influence of so many conditions. So by understanding that nature of the reality, that we will be able to prevent impatience, that we will, think twice before we retaliate against those who harm us.
this is what the Karsata, Roma, you may say, the Takwashene. It money doesn't reach us some that Tangia, Kadon, you were the Pejara, I said, could you that you would young Rigoria?
No.
Or did this some, the money reach us some consider quad of Yakushan, that Piggy, Troll, they got my which is survived Gumia, the young looks around the Piggy. Some of my body does it, that got you contact, and some of them. That Lamsabe, Triame, which she wanted it to work.
No.
She was short of the tone, and the chassis. That knows my junior, only the body can that did you or
No. So just like we would understand that a person who is gone crazy, lunatic, under the influence of demons or whatever, this person might say the weirdest thing, do the strangest thing, but we are not going to get mad with the person. We are going to find a way to understand the person and help the person. In the same way, when individuals are acting under the influence of afflictive emotions such as anger, right, this person is not in full control of himself or herself. So we need to understand the person may not even want to say the thing that he is saying or doing the thing he's doing. He's just under the influence of something else. And understanding that situation, we must not get mad with the person. And so when we look at that, okay, the choice I have before me is anger and patience, right? Which side should I choose, right? Which is, and when we analyze all these reasons, we see the truth is on the side of the patience, isn't it? A lunatic person can do the weirdest thing, we understand that. And this person at the moment is more like a lunatic because under the influence of anger and something else, okay? And by thinking this way, I'm not saying that this is the magic wand, so you will forever and forever never going to get mad or angry. We will still might get mad. But at least we know when we get mad, I know I shouldn't have gotten mad because the truth is on side of the patience, right? There are many more benefits to go with the patience rather than befriend the anger because life gets screwed up, So in that way, we know which side we should stand with and which side has the truth of the matter. And slowly, by being on the side of the truth, by being on the right side, that we will be able to change and transform ourselves, right? That's what we're saying. We're not saying that overnight we will become peace-loving and peaceful people, right? That may not happen, because we got tons of deluded habits,
What there is the Ganga picture that Ongong you the Kyo, Mongol, didn't that on the low child they will pay or but child that the Ganga Kejo kind of the regret that this one have a Diego regret on the top when the Tata or daughter as shadow. What you will say out there in the Injit San Jesus say, Gizamara, Katu, some of the court show. She said, oh, they called me that. But you say, that late on was said, any big loving sugar in the curry sugar. Kadu Laglin Tato, Sula Yobara. They said, I called, they got to call Shay and the Kalekala, Yajidra Yara. No, what did this sound of?
So Geshe says that this kind of critical thinking and analysis, this kind of reasonings and the logic we see, it really makes sense, isn't it? Okay, that when somebody is not in charge, full control, under the influence of something else, right, and this person can, misbehave, right, And this we can analyze and understand. We don't have to engage in some kind of meditative imagination, like let you imagine, visualize this happening. No, we don't have to visualize. This is what it is. Like we can see, understand it. The logic is simple, it's pragmatic. It really makes sense. So when we kind of think about these things, slowly, our mind will be able to go more with the truth of the matter, go more with the reasoning and rationality, and that's how we bring incremental changes, right? It takes time to transform ourselves, but at least we are on the side of the right side, the truth side, the pragmatic side, the reasoning side, and that's why Geshe is saying it is important for us to take that into account. Because this logic is quite simple, right? It doesn't need a high-level meditation. It doesn't need visualization, imagination. This is what it is. Are you yourself, or are you gone crazy under the influence of X, Y, Z? If you're gone under the crazy influence, you're not you. You're misbehaving, So we should not retaliate against you because you are not saying it. Something else is making you say it, right? So that's how we look at the situation.
엄마 희자나 직송도 거기서 해멜라라 테메견 티사바다듯이 갈 삼바티에 봐 텐디에 주 휴시 제가 간도 뭐와시알 비게 동네시아도 되게 가가 오늘 삼바도 수직 팽거 다 다시는 제가 그 트대요 말이지 이는 도 공되게나 이는 거 공문도잖아 이는 비게 현동 흉터하지 이게 돼서 왔다.
And Geshe has quoted wonderfully from his memory a stanza from great Aryadeva's 400 stanzas Chaduk Shaduk. And so why he's giggling over that is because that stanza, highlights about practice such as training our mind, right? The practice of giving and taking. We call it tonglen. I know in English giving and taking sounds really strangest thing. So I might put in the footnote. So we imagine, right, giving our happiness and the goodness to others so that others are happy, and taking upon ourselves, their pain and causes of pain and suffering to ourselves so that they feel liberated, right? This is called the practice of Tonglen. Of course, we are training our mind. We are imagining it. When you're doing Tonglen practice, nobody is going to find all the happiness and everybody's suffering is cured. No, nothing is probably happening there at all. But simply doing this kind of mind training, slowly, we really develop this altruism for others. We become less self-centered. We care about other people. We become more empathetic with others, right? So these changes happening in us will help us to engage in helping others more, right? At the moment, we don't have that mindset. That's why we're not helping others, right? We're not willing to help. We're not interested to help, right? But as we change our mind through this kind of a Tonglen practice, when our mind is in the right state, then we really feel interested to care about others and to help others, right? So that's why mind training is also important.
초아다 디잘 때는 등에 먹이지 마야 말아. 시에다가 라마에는 거 초고 말이라 말다. 초어디 리부카리 와서 등에 레고라. 시 등에 되게서 요 말아. 시에다 거 초야다 같이 해도 니모도 안데 셔를 뭐 그런 데가 되고네나. 인거 대화 마히 먹이 등에 딴 되고 말이지. 시에다 초고 저는 거 리부 등에 다 그 디자셔 때문에 리부 때 등에 먹이 말아. 혹시 됐어. 이 약보도 와.
No. So now we are on top of page 162, and so we have a stanza quoted from Bodhisattva Mahasattva Shantideva's engaging in the Bodhisattva deeds, and I quote, "Thus everything is dependent on something else, and because that in turn is dependent, it is not autonomous. Understanding this, do not be angry at anything, all things being like illusions," unquote. So as Geshe explained, that anger leads to problems and suffering. Any kind of afflictive emotions we can think of, right? Attachment, arrogance, pride, all of these things lead to negative outcomes. They really don't bring us what we want. Okay? if we truly care about finding happiness, okay, finding peace, then we are not going to get mad. Because getting angry is not going to make us happy, because it's going to make us, our mind is disturbed. Now we disturb other people as well. So, but then why do we get angry again? Because we are habituated, we are under the influence of anger. So we really need to understand what anger is, its objective conditions, and find ways to deal with, to counteract anger.
我觉得现在牛车不接吧，那现在都是方便，让人搞不得样子凶的，才么了什么，从了说别那把事情，开始接吧说行，现在大就没3年讲说我搞我小我的时候的。比他现在说嘛，就说开始就和他人对你人个这是吧？咱们学习着不得照顾，农业啥子都给把人们现在当然能写的是，俺这考啥去当时说咋写就说有嘛了，他可能咱们领着吧现在，但是咋写的那说就叫他都说怎么样，个说怎么样了吧？那样的现在咱们在的呢，说的你们跟那的那同样这不。说是上一届他们这样子这毛毛用不到啊。现在这用过一次，那个然后要这么说，地他我先给他玩是吧？是吧？说是做咱们这咱因为这车啊，咱大个然后没有大些么也可能水嘛吧？我现在的生活单也不得是，这生活单大个俺这超的车，可能然后咱先不得来，可能烧些那个的，是他俺大些不是这不行呢。
So we're on top of page 162, where it's stated that in general, every one of us cherish ourselves the most, right? There are billions of people in the world, but who is the most precious and important person in the world from each of our perspective? It's me. Okay? If the choice is me and others and the world, it's me, because I'm very precious, right? But that being said, when we are under the influence of anger and other delusions, we might even go to the extent of harming ourselves, isn't it? That's why people commit suicide. People drink poison. People hang themselves up, right? People jump off the cliff. People kill themselves. Even though you are the most precious one, right? Why is that? So does that show the person is in charge or control, or the person is under the influence of something else, isn't it? So when we take that account, a person can himself and kill himself. Of course he can harm you. He can say the darnest things to you. I mean, that's taken for granted, right? A person can harm himself who usually cherishes the most, then of course this person can harm anybody else, right? So this condition of the situation shows that the person is not in charge. It's not the master of the domain. This person is under the influence of the delusions, afflictive emotions. Okay? So we have to understand that situation, and this will help us not to retaliate against those who harm us. So we have 4 stanzas quoted from Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Shantideva's engaging in the Bodhisattva deeds, and which are the source of all the things we just explained to you, how when somebody is under the influence of afflictive emotion, he can even harm himself. If that being the case, of course, it's understandable that under the influence of afflictive emotion, somebody else can harm you or harm others, And with that kind of understanding, we should prevent impatience, or we should prevent anger from arising in our mind and retaliating against those who harm us. So we will stop there for today, and we welcome your questions, observations, and...
Hi, thank you very much for today's teaching. And I wondered to what extent we could apply this argument to the current judicial process, where a person committed a crime is not under his or her own control. And therefore, can we go to the extent that nobody should be put into the prison?
Say the last part again.
To what extent should this whole argument apply to the judicial process when we say,
Oh, you mean we should not put a criminal into the prison because he or she is under the influence of affliction? Is that what it's saying?
Whether that's possible, to what extent should we apply this argument?
Okay. Yeah, I was trying to understand your perspective here. Kurang this is what again. That under the Karasore and Jumzen Robichik the Karasidu Kanlia and a Kansa de and a Kondrish around the chin is Rawan Mezan Rawagan. And a Dama the Shikri Dama the Chikri, and their sons are Kansal Toning Mare, they are and a Gen to one the chin, Cheverus Labrawagan. When you saw Sidu Kanla, that thing sang on the Kazo that Tim like Java in Arawagan. That Nangye Ching and the Zoyawagan. Nangye Ching and the Zoya, that's so sort of Dandal and Majavawagan. When you mogi, she wanted Nangye Chevet and Derawagan. The lesson to Nangye Ching and the Zangan Chukurs when you say thank you Arawagan. Says that did dig the your that dig the days you can decision that's was Arawagan. Kiss was a hawk over in the Takuanga Majuko in Sajorawagan, and they next give them.
that ticket that the Jitan Jigde, the Jigde in a young Jigde Konacho, the Tia of Siena Tisura. Tinde never do Madana and the Lumba for a pet, Digi Ganga Chodra, Sangasing Shah Jorwa.
No.
That Tibu that the Monguto and the young Lurta said of Sydney. God says it to Kariat and Tim the Sora.
No.
That Tim that may create Shakin. Any country was the Lumba Digi Jam or
No.
She did Jigde Konan. The church told she was semi Shawasi. Tanda did that Gaza Guba Shulin and Gaya, my Shula, Mamuto the Jilon, Mongo Doa.
No.
Was it the Shavamare?
No, sure. Geshe said, of course, he is not authority on the judicial systems of this country or anywhere else. But as you're trying to connect today's teaching to the system, he understands that yes, and people who commit crimes, in many cases it could be that the people really don't want to do that because of situational factors or under the influence of afflictive emotions, they commit those crimes. And then, of course, judicial system, I should say, puts them in the prison or give them the punishments, right? Just because they are given punishment does not necessarily mean that it is contradicting the Dharma principles, right? Because many judicial system, not all, certain, they could go with the Dharma principles. For example, what Geshe said is, let's say, because we live in a society, the society should have certain rules and regulations. Otherwise, we will all be very chaotic, and then like this, but well, this person's under the influence of anger, let him go free, it's like then there many people will do that, and after a while, like the whole society is going to be disturbed. So for the sake of prevention of crimes, and all of that thing, the judicial system is an important thing to place. The question probably we could look at is, whatever the judicial system punishment is giving, whether that's a reasonable punishment or not, right? That's something to be discussed. Not because somebody is punished for his crime doesn't necessarily mean, it contradicts the Dharma principle. Okay.
레가도 딘데 주방이 바 미세와다 엔 미 현다이나 비게 등도 내 터시네 롱발 되기 샤워로와 신고 뭐지 지가 샤이면 그 대리 사이 딜 셰드시네 도도도 그러
I think judicial system, I believe, is also, there for certain reasons, and the reason could include that somebody commits a crime and we give certain punishment with the hope that this person will learn the lesson from this and will never do it again, repeat, right? Not only that he will not repeat, then other people who know about it, they, you know what, I shouldn't do that because I can get locked up and I'll get this, right? So for those reasons, right, I think judicial system has reasons for that, Yes, please, yeah. We can go any direction and come back.
Thank you so much for the teachings. Sure. Isn't the deepest anger comes from the anger towards someone we love when we're so disappointed? It's one thing for someone to cut you off in traffic, you're angry, but when someone you deeply love makes you angry, it's so much harder.
Yes, oh, sure, thank you. 그런 this was the ringi can sunjo the pembo jon tochena shuro jesa. The monarchy should did do ake da nganzo kongdo chowa che de ko junze mangbo yin ko ba ge. Junze zo ru chi di ma ba sta so so ye ning nya ba de ge ro wa ge. Ane ta ka so kongdo wang gi chi di an sem chi podu che do wa ge. Mi de me den shen ji ge mo ra ta de gal free well ya ane so so din mo ra che me ko lung ta leng ge ro wa ge. Ta ko ge mi ro wa ge. In so so za wa che za. So so ge be ro wa che sa chi ge ro wa ge. Ane so so do ba ma do che do kan kongdo la chi go ro wa ge. Ja kongdo la ge gyujen zo ru di ma ra ba sa rang le ning nya ba de ge ro wa ge. Ane ro wa mo do ba da chi che de ro wa ge.
예. 디디 콘도 유나 히스고 다 간다 간다 쉐리겐 그 나르셈비 고보 구세아죠라. ngal neva shivaji mohoji nge pel niel neva shivaji dal pental da ba jose de chiya yorwa oteran de takarare ko ngoya gize de ko ro yo men so so thonda chi mandu so dangi social digi yin so ya de ka du so
ma dis ko ma de ko da pen so so nang da mola de lam so pet chan ge nang mi chim so so da zawa shu che so ro wa ge dige de control line go ro wa ge da kyo ne so ro wa ge mi shamba de me de shin control lam da control ro wa ge da dige de so so zawa che ro chang bi kyong ro wa ge yin ne yama lang che ro wa ge lang che ro wa so ko kyu jin so chang ma ro so ge
다 콘도 유이드 다 낭문 저 냐디게 망어 용거를 쓰고로
라 데 슈크셔가 말았어 겐
데데 타가라데 가르스는 거다 저거 너서 하 먹을 때 콘도 지야요 말이 가버지야 말이 가시야요 말와 너도 기야 가르스 낭미서 집에 에디 간소가 간세 저와요 될 차단 지고로 와
나네
샤다 낭물 지야 돼 가르스 낭미도 소 그게 다 초도 다 먹을 그게 가르스 wrong show because that ning so the zin there za
no
and ko control lang na and control cha yung go da ka ga se da ji ji da ko nge da ren da shi ge so ro ta si control cha la mo ba da nam ji su ya ko she da she pe kan da ti ni ma ji che da ji lo sa na ni ko che mo
da do de la gen da tab lu ska re ni so ne yo mo ro ba da nang mi din de control lang so tab shi ro ro ko da chi de yo ro ge da de sam lo tang da ro ska re ni
al sam lo tang da nang mi sam로 땅다서 다 sam로 땅다데 다 당기대 되기다 아 콘도 셰네 가 낭을 잠지자네 낭을 튀는 너무 말와 근데 콘도 마지비셰 세세셰네 소소들라는 파 말하는 마 잠주고 근데 다다도 그러와 다 찌찌라 파니 라데서 너무도 뭐지 만자가요 말와 그래서 당기 나 얘기지 이 콘도 예미다 세바금 배우니 뭐도 고득시 samotana tadi rebel lamne ya moga share ke marwa
no so
kebsan ka de so so ako de achoro
no so I was trying to make sure that I get your question to our teacher and he addressed that right so Geshe said what you said is very true right yes we could get angry with strangers but we could get angry with those who are very dear and near ones when the dear and near ones they disappoint us, right? And that becomes a big source of anger. And this is because of our, intimate relationship connections with them, right? Because we, the social animal, have a tendency to categorize people into us versus them, right? Because they are us. So one of us now, is screwing up, right? That drives us really nuts. And again, the teaching that we talked about today could apply to that. We say, you know what? Well, this person is also under the influence of afflictive emotions, right? If I get mad with this person, it's not going to resolve the issue. It might exacerbate the situation more, right? So rather than that, I should try to understand the situation and don't at least add a fuel to the fire, right? Let the fire subside and we can discuss the matter, things like that. Yes. Go ahead. Sure.
So my question is, you guys talk about the approach towards anger.
Yes.
I'm thinking the first step, from what I understand, is to understand what the anger is coming from and knowing that they're not themselves.
Yes.
And you said that there's a good selfless way of helping by listening.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any other actionable thing that you can do
Okay.
aside from understanding?
Sure. Yeah. 그런 게 디스코 다 드린 기다 가서 송주가 소들 와게 and 강사치다 가서 그래 콩도 사빈나 와게 대야다 코란지 라와 차단 예베터네 마인바 코 시왕절 친다 제버 와게 디네주디 셴바이나 아 팔이야 초와 맞아게 편도지어 송아절 와게 다디 네주 시에바자 마인바 안 팔이야 양 편도지어 와게 니네 성로 당당 양 샤바는 간대요나 사절 와게 아니 야 탑시로 버든 가래요나
딱고 라드 렌터야도 타기 가리는 시고라
레다 강사디 콩로산에 가를 럽기네 와게 다 닝제다 코 닝제 되는 롱라샤스 디다다 코 네주디 시에바자 와게 꼴게 로고게 지금 말와 다 이는 딜이야 가서로다 강다 데라랑래 편도체 이번 다 삼로 당당의 연구로 와게 가래나서 탑시로스
자 강사디 근데 콘도도 시에바이나 다디 카두가 되게 콘도디 빠까야 더달래 삼고 활동 걸 쓰고 그래
다 강다 딜레 파 로고 체로 편도체부터 삼로당의 가래스 이로 와게
예 데데다데레 제가 대치고 제가 편도시한테 가르치고 대치고 쓰고 다 강사디 콘도시에서는 사고 누가 콘도다 디 형한테 쇼도 다디 콘도데 제가 탑이지 마시나 탑은 디 콘도디 도모메베 비 니발 자데 더도 자데도 우선 인 콜이야 콘도 콜 네바시고 바디 인 뭐셔바시네 인 콘도 제가 삼노동 그랬어 대규 페이지 용하데 디리스도와
No, so. Geshe says that, of course, there are many ways to think about, right? In this case, probably one way is when we ourselves are not angry, right? We witness this person getting so angry and helpless, right? And then whatever he or she is saying or doing, really is not himself or herself. We know that, right? And so this will also be a way for us to learn a lesson that anger has so many problems, right? Maybe usually we know this person is not that, right? But now, because under from anger, this person is behaving weirdest thing. So this provides us also think about the faults or the disadvantages of anger and the benefits of patience, right? Thinking about. So that at least we can control ourselves so that we don't add, right, fuel to the fire and get mad equal with the person. At least we can be more of the calming effect, so to speak, on the person, right? Okay.
Hidalgo Japan Koda Savoji and that's the worship of Vienna and called Labjak Ja total job. Tibanaya, the Koda Shin, Dung did Naya, Pay Yapuchin, Yavo, Koda Dujayan, Puyan to Lojuto and Sia Yorova.
No.
So the continent, the Jamro Dobalan, the Shia Jamdo girls as you may
No.
What they call it Labja Tidesiora, for you will church in the same that the Sankita show like Lago Dung and 가린 거들 가지고 지 라레타야 펜도도 넣고 해는 되고 알아.
Of course, outside that angry situation, if we know the person well, we can share our knowledge with each other. What's the problem with anger and the benefits of doing patience. But when somebody's really angry, we may not have that opportunity. So one of the best ways to help the person is we should not lose anger, right? Anger. We should set a good example. So hopefully this person might, learn something from that example that you are setting for. Then other times you can share, right, whatever knowledge. So when we talk about teaching Dharma, it does not necessarily mean you have to sit on a higher throne and then you have to be prostrated too. And it means sharing your spiritual knowledge, right, with each other. And so that could be done as well. Okay, next question, yes.
It seems that there's a variety of mental disturbances.
Yes.
And at the same time, it seems that people are under the different levels of consciousness development.
Yes.
Could that be elaborated on?
Okay. Alakona diso da kanza nganzu sem chu be jen de la ta ka so gore ko kyuje mangbo yung ro wa ge kong de go ma re ta ro wa ge ine ya nganzu this go ra ta kangsa so ki ta sem ki ne za da rin ba da ma lo yo ro wa ge ka she ne za tho ro wa yan din de jen ne ko chik cho wa nyam nyong da ma ra yung ro wa ge ne de ko le ya ken des chik so ro nas ko ro wa ge ta ka she ya sem chong ya bu che de yung ro wa ge sem nyam len ya bu de sem ya chue de ko da rin ba mangbo yung ro wa ge din de ko de so ro nas ko sa no
다 들어와 가지 다 파사로 양도 다나 다 디디들 세웠다. 오늘은 삼모 약고도 쉬나. 엔비 현 코드를 랑소나 디비 소소 비 세바 고메 비 유케바지 가와 가두고니 세바 공터야 샤고로와. 다 디데 모주나 코드시 디스 네네도 힘마 까탑심. 좋아. 네빌레 뭐지 현 네바 메바데 다 간지 쉬기데 디스고 말에 현 팬도보다 현 되어가지고 이는 되게 좋아라. 이제다 잡시는 현파 콘드시아 파쇼 다도 콜프기 팬도 세가지로 와.
네.
다티 먼저도 코지 콘드라 네버도 시티 레 말로 시티 까타베 좀 되고 싫어와.
No, son. Of course, as you said, individuals' consciousness development might, have different levels, and so some people may not easily get mad or angry, right? Or some people are able to deal with the situation much better way. Some can think more deeply, right? So we all have those differences among ourselves. But from Dharma practitioner's point of view, here are the two things we have always been reminded. In any given situation, the number one is if there's something I can do or think that could be beneficial to this person, right? If something we can help and benefit the situation, we should do that. Now, if say that, I cannot help anything, then nothing, right? But at least we should see that I'm not going to make the situation worse or add, right, more problem to the situation. So at least that is a Dharma practice, right? So we always think in two ways. Can I benefit and do something? If I can do, at least I should not harm and, make the situation worse. For a Dharma practitioner, when we face those challenges, actually these are wonderful situations for our practice development. When somebody is going, seeing the weirdest thing, thing, this provides us the real opportunity to practice patience, isn't it? When somebody is not making us mad, looks like we are good practitioners, everything seems to be fine. We don't know because we didn't get tested, right? But here's a real situation. It presents to you as like, here I am. Where are you on your level, right? This will help us to think like, okay, right? This will also a good test for us, right? To see where we are, at what level, and what we need to do.
다디 가다 그 먼저 대화시고 이시시고 써야 되게 계속 말아. 소소모도 난 가르가다 배다 거지 식도를 나게 되는 파레로나 야가데 발로야데 소소 흘려이도 사모단들 봐. 거기 사회가 되는 또도 말아. 어디 사모당서는 파레로 치지라 네 미집이 첨부 소거로 와. 근데 거기 써야 되는데 들어가는 좋아서 돼. So
Geshe says the things we have talked about today are very practical, something we can do for ourselves, right? We are not saying, we should believe in Buddha. Buddha said so. Buddha is a holy being, No, we don't have to go even there about the faith in the Buddha, right? Just look at the situation, okay? When we are not in a difficult situation, in a peaceful state, we should consider and think about this matter so that we are well prepared when the difficult situation presents. Because sometimes when the difficult situation is present, we may not be able to do it, right? I'm thinking about that. We train our mind, and then situation arises. Somebody is saying bad things about, right? Now think about that. Okay, if I kind of, say bad things back, right? This person saying one thing to me, I'll say one thing, but is this going to help the situation, or is this going to make the situation worse, isn't it, right? And because we have train our mind, we will be able to make a better judgment that, isn't it? Right? Usually it doesn't help to say things back. Because now you said, I said, she said, who said, and then we just go into the loopy-loop situation, it gets all worse, right? We get all entangled more, okay? But if we can tolerate one situation, it might, disperse the whole other situation, isn't it? So this is how, when we are not a difficult situation, we should train our mind and think this thought so that, we can use these resources when it's needed, okay? Yes, Alan?
It's a two-part question, and I don't know how to ask it. Okay. Okay, so I'm in an industry, like a service industry, where I deal with sick people
Yes.
or ill people mentally and physically.
Okay.
Sometimes they do say incredible things like you're
Yes.
saying, so I can attest to that. Understanding, like intellectually what you're saying
Yes.
is one thing,
Yes.
but when somebody's barking at you
Yes.
or completely like destroying you,
Right.
it lets off an incredible energy towards you as well.
Yes.
And it's internalized, or maybe it's just me, but you feel it.
Yes.
In that sense, because you understand the person's sick,
Right.
you understand the person is not
Right.
themselves, but still you're there experiencing
Right.
their energy directed towards you.
Right.
Is there, as he was saying, a practice, whether gradual or immediate,
Right.
that you can do so that when you're in that situation, it doesn't get stuck inside of you,
Sure.
like emotionally?
Okay.
That's one part.
That's part one. Okay,
Yes.
let me get the part one first, right? So I don't get confused. Quran condition the dir again. That Quran and the lega chesses your again. That chicken never again. Same kin never lug ne again. Then they chicken and zam conso nin ne na za wangi ta kunjo kange singe labe tukja ne chigu do okay yamalayan de. 딱 아주 가려요서는 샘기 삼려 나를 와게 실제 윤den가 차는 아까 닝세 혼내 나자원 그 러그도 섬도 신고하러 와 레데 딱 뭐에 니절 미게 독자 두링에서 소 랍선으로 와게 딱고 포용도 와게 가자 뭐 입에 책을 고 야말랑 거 와다 닝다 닝제 쥐 내버려 된 아베 로초라 라이 윤거다 그러게 세상 딱 된데 강에 책에 있어 샘기 삼려 나는 하고 시험버제 고도 시도 요버제 이내 뭐에 니절라 고 냠래데 쳐버든 거 와게 세상 딱 된데리야 동래 책이 뒤준도 삼로 당하여 버든데 가려요서 와게 거기 카시님의 차이를 저러 와게 어디게
장고래 디 카르스나 데 다크로스 원에 카도 젠데 테네 라우사디 카데 자카워 와 당복을 자득 좀 체니 르르시디잔 엔 비게 티 콘도 니미다 세베 코야도 양 공부 체니 시데나 건설이도 거젠 카도 레는 라이도 람사 삼로 비게 까토지 레토그로 와 공부로 먼저 제 셈을 리버를 시그르스도 그 시험지가 평균을 봐 세바고는 평균이보다 ini condition thing you but there is something as a physics that the change was chinget ga chigo la
라래
this time je the social pendo shita yo marwa ko yang ji ba she na in kanson pe seba lo do the shuk share share to kondo de pa ga ya samu shuk share to in the de shi de za seba ya je she ngonzo sang je se ya de za de ji mar ba ri ba tambo ko ni move de yo ra 지당 샘디 쇼쇼하지 니무 쇼쇼 보여라 다 근데 니무도 문제지 애니 칼레 칼마 중고낸다 비치다 니무 뇽도 엔셈 거라비기 니무 지에 메지 쌍머리야 예수거라 그분 그러면 힘자니 팬도 말아
Geshe really appreciates the real case story you have presented here and you're very right that we may know intellectually what's happening here, right, in this service industry, right, they are not feeling well and you're here to serve everything, but despite that, when somebody is yakking and barking at you, it is disturbing you, right, man? So there's a disparity between, right, our understanding and at the emotional level, practical, right? Now, for this, when we're in a situation, it's really difficult to change right away. So that's why I said, as practitioners, what we say is it's not enough to learn things or know things intellectually. We have to cultivate, right, the state of mind through practice, isn't it? So when you are not in the work situation, other times, you think about the benefits of cultivating patience, right, the problems of anger and delusions, right? So as we think more and more, we develop this more and more intimacy and familiarity with the knowledge. And then slowly, as we cultivate this mindset, it becomes like our nature, isn't it? So when that's happening, I think slowly, when we encounter a situation, we see some incremental changes and things. That's the only hope, right? That's why, as practitioners, our goal is to become Buddha. Okay, but when we look at our situation right now, we have mind, we have afflictive emotions. At the moment, it seems like afflictive emotions are running the whole show, isn't it? They are our master, and mind is kind of weak and strong, right? They get all influenced by it. So if we stay in the same situation, we will never become Buddha, right? Because mind is controlled by delusions, and we want to be Buddha, but we can't. But then we think about the problem, what are the delusions, what are the problems, right? We think about the antidotes to counteract them. So as we cultivate that, right, knowledge, then slowly what we find is that delusions are decreasing, the power of the mind is increasing, the positive states of mind is increasing, right? This is the change which takes slowly, and this is how we are on the path leading towards enlightenment. The same is here, that we need to cultivate the state of the mind, right? Not enough to know, right? I mean, we can know about, like anybody can probably go and talk about the importance of the patients. We can give a lecture, we can give a presentation, but that's not a thing, is it? Because that means still it's the intellect and the heart, right? They are not together. We have to make that connection. Right? So it only comes through cultivation practice.
我记得现在我也你把起路的如果了，现在我这到老人家就说连堂波似的，已经没有啥家安排了，上个是个没法，可能给没啥，我天天公交是的哇，我天天公交呢，他天公呢，那这个要我的车是，他自己可能给要嘛，他只是什么都公不嘛都，天天他平时搞到欧子用的什么呢？因为现在嘛。 没忙啥都钱，缺一件这些的话，那可能能给啥钱？但我那人都给没得个，当这些话的是。这要我人都打这个地方的，可都是两多人的地方了吧？人不都养家也安排钱的，养家公务是吧？这的话，他的移动都那里样，小就是把都被安排的像这个嘛的是送的话，就是300那个是话了，小就是把被他。 사보 아웃도 약보야 들었지 얘네 국교 대해서 지금 말했어요. 봐. 저는 내 담고도 아니 국교 대해서.
Geshe wants to add this, where in the Lamrim teaching, often they said that we, the ordinary, people, ex-practitioners, once we learn about the Dharma, it's really highly recommended that we find solitude to cultivate, right, the thoughts and practice, because that's very important. When we are in the crowds, in the society, it's very hard for us to grow and practice, isn't it? So we stay in a solitude, we practice it, and at a certain point of time, we think, maybe now, my mind is more stable. Now to test it, then they said, go into the crowds, right? Put yourself there. And then somebody say the weirdest things, and you just flare up, you know what? Go back to the solitude. You're not ready to be in the society, right? But you come here and people say the dumbest things and you're still cool, well, now stay in the society. That's okay, right? This is how it is, right? So we have a lot of challenges. When we are presented with it, it's very hard to grow. So we have to first kind of cultivate the practice of solitude, develop the strength, and then we test it in the society where we are. And this is not only true of us as ordinary people, but it's the same for the ordinary bodhisattvas. Bodhisattvas on the different levels. In the 8,000 verses Wisdom Gone Beyond Sutra, Buddha said, sort of in generic term, that bodhisattvas must not stay in solitude. If you do that, it's a problem. You should live in a society. But it's not for all bodhisattvas. The ordinary bodhisattvas really need to find solitude and grow like us. But bodhisattvas who have gained control over their mind, now, if they stay in solitude, there is a problem, right? They need to come in the society and live and benefit sentient beings, right? So we have to check with our mental development stage. Yeah.
So now the second part of it is
okay. So second part of Alan, and then I go to Latmir, and then it's okay. Yeah.
Okay. So, if a person continues in an environment like that, that's very negative or and that's always requiring for you to be compassionate, patient, stuff like that. If you have no way of coping with it, there's a psychological condition called compassion fatigue.
Yes.
In which then you absolutely don't want to help anybody.
Right.
You become angry.
Yes.
Basically, you're the one that needs help now. For a person that's that far gone
Yes.
into being completely depleted of compassion, patience,
Yes.
all the good virtuous actions,
Right.
what can somebody in that position that's that far gone, who's in the environment still and cannot be put into solitude,
Right.
do both to cultivate the mental aspects, but also to control the physiological responses of their environment?
Sure. Okay, thank you. I got it. 다 고랑게 치와 디기 짜다 니바로 쇼로 와게 디 인사 다다기 버나 미 네발에 섭지 슈치고 와게 세네양 강에 지디 치기도 왔다 같이 닝지를 좀 야고 제로 와게 가로네 아니 다 미샴바드 저게다 강에 때 두ring에서 라블라니 가로네 닝지 콘지 치는 탕체 저로 와게 다 콘지 좀 닝지다 연서 거라 말다 된데는 그건 난 저로 와게 시디오 갈라다 셈나는 닝지 예데 가부차더로 와게 제단 미 라미도 야모 파이데 망아요 와게 그래서 딘데게 내다 차인데 가라 아니 강사데 가르쳐요 그래서 게 닝지 예답다로 와게 아다 지기 강에 동네 지구로 와게 다 야만에 가네 음바 도고로 같이 고서 와게 다 거까 닝지 타체더로 와게 대양소디
다들 됐어요. 다 간자 됐어요. 간자 당 매 장생시야 저러. 그래서 더보고 배 람사 라들레 타야 사무탄데네 에네 강에 되는 거다. 다 갈래 갈래 토데 삼니데나. 인 라발레 타와 지금서 별지어 말에 저보신 라살레 말에 갈래 갈래 라살레 시야죠 말에. 어때니 더보고 람사 락벨 랑렌타야기 축심부시데 세다 탕시에라 누구로 와 당부건 차이들 잘 갈래 시하고 사야지 여나 에네 직강에 뭐 태어나나 그 당부 심지 계셔야 그 동네시 라여라
Geshe says one way to deal with that is right from the beginning if we keep a long-term perspective, right? Don't go with sort of an ideal mind that I have to be compassionate and I'm not compassionate, right? Just push yourself. And that's like exhausting. And when we do that, then there's more possibility for the compassion fatigue and all of those rising, right? We have a long-term perspective. You know what? That's our goal, right? I need compassion. I had to cultivate it, but I know my compassion is very small, right? I often get into trouble, right? But we cultivate the compassion, increase it, but it's a long-term perspective. But I'm never going to let compassion go away. I will slowly, even though I couldn't do it right now, but I'm going to go on that trajectory line, right? That's how it's very helpful. But don't we go with the idle mindset, you know what? Well, I'm all about compassion. I need to be compassionate. I have to be compassionate. I'm not compassionate. You know, then it's you know, kind of a working against our whole nature. So we have to take a long perspective and sort of a steady and slow wins the race case, right? Yeah. So, yeah. All right, we'll stop there today. Thank you very much for your questions. And, oh, that's right. Geshe is reminding me with his fingers, and I got the message. So next Sunday, sorry again, we cannot have a teaching here because His Holiness will be in San Diego, and we just got a report that His Holiness would like to meet with the Tibetans and give advice. So we have to drive down, you know. Before there was no audience, and now things have changed. So next Sunday, you can take a break, rest, practice, find a solitude, do that. I'm just kidding. Okay. And then we will pick up this after that, okay, for Sunday. So we will do the Manjushri prayer in Tibetan and then followed by English and Vietnamese translate versions. Kange lo de timnye dende nyinda namda rabse chinye dengu jishen seche nije toga deba kanda zibe zera mande mendon donge jeze loza la boje daze yela doje yan Roda jero nyemo nyelo leye jaro junze che mare munze donge nyo Chinye junze rade na dene daje saju daje yunde lunzo gyase toyu Shudan juni Meze jambe yangla De omara badana di Senden ye yera veze ye dalu demo mumba razene kada de je shunglo doba Lo de bombe na Lord, Lord, Gyeltsen, Udon, Began, De Gesam, Bombe, Judo, Memba, Tenban, Zenla, Wando, Yijo, Betanye, Shogun, Gyola, Sowan, De. Page 21. Obeisance to my Guru and Protector Manjushri, who holds at his heart a scriptural text, symbolic of his seeing all things as they are, whose intelligence shines forth as the sun, unclouded by delusions or traces of ignorance, who teaches in 60 ways with the loving compassion of Father for his only Son, all creatures caught in the prison of samsara, confused in the darkness of ignorance, overwhelmed by their suffering. Thunder-like proclamation of Dharma arouses us from the stupor of our delusions and free us from the iron chains of our karma, who wields the sword of wisdom, hewing down suffering wherever sprouts appear, clearing away the darkness of ignorance. You who have been pure from the beginning, who have completed the stages achieving the highest perfection of a bodhisattva, whose princely body is adorned with 112 marks of a Buddha, I bow down to you, Manjushri, Om Arabhazana Di. O compassionate one, with the brilliance of your wisdom, illuminate the darkness enclosing my mind, enlighten my intelligence and wisdom, so that I may gain insight into Buddha's words and the texts that explain them. 31. Like the sweet perfume of white lotus, born in the ocean of knowledge, nourishing honeybees, the fortunate beings, your fame pervades all directions. You are proficient and powerful in upholding the precious doctrine. To you, O Lobsang Tenzing Wangda, respectfully I pray.
Nhất tâm kính lễ Đức Văn Thù Sư Lợi, bậc đại trí, Ngài điều phục hai chướng ngại, tựa nhật quan lan tỏa khắp mười phương, bậc thực chứng chân nghĩa màu rốt ráo, từ tim Ngài Bát Nhã Kinh thủ hộ nhiệm màu. Thọ sở hữu 60 pháp âm thù thắng, cùng đại bi Ngài hóa độ chúng sanh, tựa từ mẫu chăm lo cho quý tử. Tiếng rồng vang Ngài thức tỉnh hữu tình, thoát khỏi vòng luân hồi nghiệp báo. Gươm trí tuệ Ngài chặt đứt vô minh, tận diệt muôn vàn khổ đau cùng ách nạn. Trường tử Như Lai tối thắng toàn giác. Báu thân Ngài trang nghiêm thanh tịnh, 112 tướng hạo Như Lai, đê đầu đảnh lễ Đức Văn Thù Sư Lợi, cúi xin Ngài tận diệt ám chướng vô minh. Om Arapasanadi. Con khẩn cầu dưới gót sen bậc đại trí, bàn pháp lực diệt phiền não vô minh, được trí sáng con thâm nhập nghĩa màu, pháp vi diệu cùng muôn vàn luận giải. Như diệu hương ngọt ngào từ sen trắng, đàn xanh nơi trí thù thắng đại dương, hàng thiện căn như ông mật thọ nương, hồng danh Ngài khắp mười phương quảng bá, đấng thiện xảo y dũng bảo tồn pháp bảo vô giá. Nam mô Lobsang Tenzin Wangda, xin cung kính trì niệm.
安住萨心北京就是美多长日绕灵界年的眼光的上界见到美的为我眼中新郎君不中刚的绕为国为新港的平等的我忙论中为今日在王定金讲座也下边谁的天君节也当古如让那满天拉光你样大呀没有